All right, we are live. Look at how they messed us up. Hey, hey. Beyond the Veil and Unusual podcast. I'm your host, Blu-ray J, today with the Black Sun Shaman, as always. Greetings to you. Thanks for joining us. Like, share, and subscribe. We got a new episode for you today. Let's tell them about it, brother.
Oh man, have you ever asked yourself, are they for me or against me? Well, today we're going to talk about some times when they were against us. Hopefully that'll help you in your
Yes, indeed. I mean, we're going to talk about the U.S. corporation versus the American people. Um, it wasn't us that started this disagreement, but there's been a lot of controversy surrounding this um, discovery, as most of us were not, told this outright coming up, through our education system or otherwise. Most of us have come to learn of these conflicts through articles and documentaries and you name it, interviews, blasts from the past and the current present. So yeah.
Are you hit one of them bumps in the road where you like, why is things such against me? And then you start doing research and then you
Right.
discover it was made that way and set up that way and you ain't the only one.
Exactamundo. um Exactamundo. So we thought the case for America versus the U.S. corporation would be a great way to start it off. Can a house divided still stand? The strange relationship between a nation and its people. And so we decided to bring forth articles of discovery to present as evidence in this particular, you know, case of the corporation attacking its people when its people are supposed to have reserved the right in the instance of a tyrannical government to the rest. I mean, if the First Amendment was really still intact, I'd say it, but um,
Don't want to get banned, shadow or otherwise.
for sure, which has probably already happened. But hey, we try to get along without going along to get along. You feel me? So the first article presentation, brother, I'm gonna let you go heads up with it.
The first article of presentation is the syphilis experiments of Tuskegee. When you ask yourself about what do you call that? Viral warfare, or would the government ever implement viral warfare on its citizens? Your first answer is most likely no. If your first answer is the syphilis experiments, then you would be correct. This is a time when not only did they they targeted black men in this country, then gave them syphilis under the guise of a vaccine.
Yeah.
Selah. Under the guise of a vaccine, and then they developed syphilis. They were never told that they had syphilis, and they were never treated for the syphilis, and many of them lost their lives in those experiments. I know it's at least 100 plus lost their lives in those experiments. So you have to ask yourself, is this an instance in which the U.S. corporation violated the rights and committed an act of terrorist against its citizens? Um, And interesting note is the amount of time that went on from 1932 to 1972. 32, 42, 52, 62, 72. So how many years were they experimenting on the citizens? This wasn't a 2 week, 2 month, 3 week, 3 month. This was 4 years of experimentation exercised on these people.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I guess I was muted. All right. So yeah, the Tuskegee experiment. Let's see here. And this took place in Tuskegee, Alabama. You know, it's funny. Tuskegee sounds like an Indian name, doesn't it?
Tuskegee or to the something. Yeah, it does. It really does ring
Let,
like that.
let's see. Let's look that up. Yeah, yeah. The syphilis study. I got that up. Let's see. Now let's see what. Yeah, Tuskegee. Let's check out the origin. Yeah. Supposedly it's from Spanish, Tuskegee, Tuskegee, but it came from the Muskogee word, Tuskegee, meaning warriors. Oh,
Well, that would bring us to our next explanation of COINTELPRO, would it not? But
I mean, we're skipping over a few decades, but sure, absolutely,
mhm.
yeah, it does, it does. Um, yeah, between 1932 and 1972, this study was conducted. So we're talking about 40 years. Yeah, by the United States Public Health Service and the Centers for
Wait.
Disease
Let's
Control.
let's let's throw those timelines together. You have COINTELPRO from 1956 to 1971. Isn't that interesting?
Yes, yes, absolutely. It says the okay, a group of nearly 400 African American men with syphilis, as well as a control group without. What I noticed interesting, even in this overview, see if you catch it. I'll read it one more time and I'll try to read it as quickly as possible, but as precisely as possible as well. So it says the Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male was a study conducted between 1932 and 1972 by the United States Public Health Service and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on a group of nearly 400 African American men with syphilis, as well as a control group without. So we in Indian territory, at least formally,
Mm-hmm.
that was taken over by the Spanish eventually. And then by the time the United States is formed, by the year 1932, you had Negro males. Then by the time the United States Public Health Service and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on a group of nearly 400, it says African American men. So wait a minute. So you mean to tell me that they were they experimenting on Negroes, African Americans, or Indians?
Well, being that they were reclassified, that would take some discovery of their names and lineage.
So then we're talking about a dual attack now, because even within the study, the records are saying that they're different than Indian, but then also now they're African after 40 years of experimentation. I'm gonna leave that alone and I'm gonna just set it right there. But okay, all right. So let's get to oof, simultaneously. This is what was happening simultaneously. Bear with me, y'all. And I'm gonna let my brother go in on this because he enjoys not enjoys talking about it, but he uh yeah, he is focused when it comes to this topic. So I'm gonna let him. This is an article from Time magazine. Beyond Tulsa, the historic legacies and overlooked stories of America's Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street, interesting. It used to be Negro Wall Street, right?
Niji Wall Street, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm gonna let you go ahead and, if you don't mind, if you can see this well.
Yes, between May 31st and June 1st, 1921, as many as 300 people were killed in one of the deadliest race massacres in U.S. history. Riled up by rumors of a black man graping a young white woman, a white mob burned down Tulsa, Oklahoma
Oklahoma.
neighborhood of Greenwood, aka Black Wall Street, the affluent commercial and residential neighborhood founded in the city by Black Americans who went west after the Civil War.
Who else went west after the Civil War? Oh, hold on.
You talking about in the fourth? Ooh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So wait a second. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Let's see. The Indian Removal Act was put in place to annex. Wait a minute. This says native land and then transfer that ownership to southern states, especially Georgia. The
The
act was
Great
passed.
Oh.
The act was passed in 1830, although had been ongoing since 1802 between Georgia and the federal government concerning the possibility of such an act.
The Great Migration occurred in 1910. Just, throwing that out there. The Great Migration between 1910s and 1970, around 6 million African Americans were moved from the rural South to urban areas in the North, Midwest, and West. So if we're following the timeline, they were forced migrated to the West and then experimented on 20 years after their arrival for the next 40 years.
So, I mean, it seems like the ones that left behind in the South, specifically Alabama, which used to be connected to the Georgia territory as well as the territory of West Florida, and then there was a period of 2 years where, the Panhandle and northern portion of Florida, most of Georgia, if not all, Alabama right next to it, Mississippi, all the way over into Louisiana, were the free state of West Florida. People don't know about that, but that's where that flag that became the Confederate flag got its origins. So you had Indian confederacies that were fighting for their land and to free other enslaved Indians as well as other enslaved peoples that were asking for their help after Florida vacated Spain vacated Florida and left the land to the people rather than cede it to the English. Excuse me for stuttering. But
so yeah. we have an account of genocide against the corporation in their forced migrations. Then we have another viral attack. Well, I mean, not talking about the smallpox in Christopher Columbus, but the syphilis in Tuskegee. That's another instance on which they executed potential terrorist attacks on the citizens. And then we also covered the Tulsa, Oklahoma bombing, which they mentioned the citizens, but the bombing did not occur at the hands of the citizens. The bombing occurred at the hand of the governing body. So this is 3 accounts where it seems very plain that acts of terrorism were indeed implemented on the citizens of this country or corporation, whichever you prefer. Martin Luther King as well. I would like to bring that piece of evidence as well. The government had direct um, influence and kept secret their direct hand in the assassination of Martin Luther King. And just to put the icing on the cake, his mother was also assassinated in church while service was being conducted.
Yeah, and where was he from?
Alabama.
Nope.
Oh,
No, we're not King.
oh,
Where was the assassin from?
I don't know.
Dayton, Ohio. Same, similarly to the man who backed up over that sister at the uh, rally in Charlottesville. He was from Toledo, Ohio. It wasn't nothing really racial about that whole event until a dude from Ohio backed up over a black woman who happened to be a part of a crowd that was protesting. And you got to ask yourself, how did he get boxed in to the point where he was fearful enough to where he hit the gas instead of the brake? Um, anyhow, that's another show. You see this here?
Yes.
So this is what it says: the passage of the Indian Citizenship Act. But if look, okay, go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and read it. Sorry, y'all. Indian Citizenship Act 1924 granted United States citizenship to all Indians born in America. As a result, American Indians were finally granted free travel. Ooh, thank you for your kindness, boss. At the present time, American Indians who live on reservations are free to travel as they wish. What does it say? American Indians. Okay. Oh, wait a second. So I'm confused. Native American civil rights. What's this? Building a movement for Native justice. Native peoples. First Nations. Hmm. Are y'all familiarizing yourselves with these terms? Are you understanding? Okay, so the purpose of the Indian Removal Act, see if this makes sense to you, of 1830 was to authorize the president to negotiate treaties to forcibly remove Native American tribes from their ancestral lands east of the Mississippi River to a designated Indian territory in present day Oklahoma. This was intended to free up land for white settlers, expand cotton and slavery, and bring Native Americans into conflict with the U.S. government by forcing them to either assimilate or leave their homes. So it was to free up land, fuel economic expansion, resolve state conflicts, force
Wait a minute.
relocation.
Didn't they? Isn't that what King said right before he experienced government assassination?
Oh,
Didn't he say that the land banks
yeah.
uh didn't he speak on the land banks granting European peasants, I mean settlers, I mean
The peasants of Europe,
the peasants of Europe.
undergirding an economic floor for the peasants of Europe. Yes. And through acts of Congress, like the Indian Removal Act, they took Negro land and they built farms on Negro land and land grant colleges.
Now, just for my own clarity, these were not original inhabitants to these land. These were foreigners, correct? Who were exercising this, or their demons, are these acts and things like that. They were committing these acts, and these were foreigners, correct? These were English, or what are they over there? Europeans. These were Europeans committing these acts, correct?
Yes.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah.
Attorney.
Let's go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say in 1920, Attorney General Mitchell A. Palmer led raids on socialist and anarchic groups,
You can
arresting over 10,000 people without due
you can share that. But wait, are we skipped? Let's not go to. We're gonna do this step by step.
Mm-hmm.
We're not gonna jump into the 80s and 90s yet,
Okay.
because we ain't even hit the 70s. Barely touched the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
1900s. We saying. It's just amazing how they try to change history since Dane Calloway came out. At least the recording of history, the way that it actually went down, and that we had been told before. Um, Nativist Party. So yeah, let's look under that. Nativist. Yeah, Native American Party. Cause see, something ain't right here. Yeah, so okay. I'm gonna go ahead and share this. Let's see. I think you should be able to share too on your screen, brother. Um, uh, Look at that. The American Party, known as the Native American Party before 1855, and colloquially referred to as the Know Nothing Party, or the Know Nothing, the Know Nothing Party, was an old stock nativist political movement in the old United States from the 1840s through the 1850s. Members of the movement were required to say, I know nothing, whenever they were asked about its specifics by outsiders, providing the group with its colloquial name. Supporters of that movement believed that an alleged Romanist conspiracy to subvert civil and religious liberty in the U.S. was being hatched by the Catholics. Therefore, they sought politically organize native-born Protestants. Native-born Protestants. The Know Nothing movement is remembered for this theme because Protestants feared that Catholic priests and bishops would control a large block of voters. Why would this be such a concern? Was it possibly because the Catholics had come in and started to convert the original people? And the original people were more leaning towards a religious right. And so these native leftists had to subvert the control that the Catholics were establishing with the indigenous in these parishes, and wanted to basically get a foothold on the national power by convincing people that if they were born here that they were American. as opposed to just being U.S. citizens. So I mean that would be a mindset that would lead to justification in their minds of undergirding an economic floor for the peasants of Europe, being that the peasant class were usually the criminal class or the ones that were subject to the monarchy, right?
Mm.
So did they ever stop serving the crown?
No, no. The crown that we pay our taxes to voluntarily.
Involuntarily, in the sense that there should be no taxation unless there's representation. I mean, unless you're a hypocrite and you dump a bunch of tea into a bay, shoot two Indians that you later try to make into Negroes in the history books, and then, don't want the people to realize that that's what's happening to them again.
Mm.
I mean, sorry to keep bouncing back and forth, but we really didn't even get into the full meat of like the rise and fall of Richmond's Jackson Ward. This is still Negro Wall Street. And we had a conversation with artificial intelligence before we went live with you guys. So I don't know, bro. Do you want to give an example so they can hear the hiccups
uh, um,
or no?
I mean, whenever you like me to load it up, I will, and it will answer. But the hiccups that he's referring to, if you ever hear the AI go or pop chow, his favorite term is pop chow. I don't know what that means and what language that is, but whenever it has to not answer the way it was going to originally answer, and its answer base changes, you'll hear it say or pop chow right before it answers the question that's being asked of it.
I just want y'all to pay attention, even in this article by Time, how many times they misrepresent us with a misnomer and go as far away as they can from the true identity. Okay. And in the first term, okay, look, the rise and fall of Richmond's Jackson Ward, designed to help safeguard Black Americans, investments and savings. Black Americans. Now we're talking about near the time of the Civil War. We're talking about 1864, 65. They were not called Black Americans. And there was no status such as Black American, but to clarify for you what I'm implying and what I'm saying directly is to say Black American at that time, if this were written in that time, you would be admitting that these were the indigenous people of America, as opposed to the term white, which was at that point associated with native born. They were granted white status. WHITE, not WIGHT, which would be the European reference in legal terms for a natural living person. Back to the story at hand. So it's a design to help safeguard Black Americans' investments and savings. The Freedmen's Bank was incorporated by President Abraham Lincoln in 1865. Trustees squandered billions of dollars of Black Americans' money on risky ventures and speculation. With the loss of the Freedmen's Bank came the loss of millions of dollars of African American wealth. Wait. I thought we were dealing with Black Americans. Who the flying filth are these African Americans, and where did they get wealth from? Wait a minute, okay. But also a loss of confidence in the banking system. Historian freedom. Black women. Who are these Black women? Okay. In U.S. finance before the New Deal, told Time in an interview for this video, it also really attuned them to the fact that the belief that they needed to control their own banking institutions. And if you check the historical record, I people, however you want to designate yourself, owned over 150 million banks. I mean, sorry, 150 banks. Let me back that up. 150 banks. 150 banks.
That made me think about Marcus Garvey and his connection to the fraternal organization and the fact that he accumulated all of that money from those people, and then the shit didn't work, and he happily moved himself right on over there to London.
The ship was decommissioned from naval use. So how are you gonna buy a boat, a ship railing against as a supremacist? You're so superior, but you got to buy a steamship from them. Notice, a steamship to take people who had just came here from Africa back to Africa.
Brother Jay, I know
bro, knowing what we know, I'm not trying to cut you off, but knowing what we know now, just think about how preposterous what I just said is, and that's the facts. You had a Negro, so-called Negro, of Caribbean ancestry, trying to take African Negroes back to Africa who literally had not so long ago just arrived. We've already established that 20 and some odd Negras was not describing anything other than 20 and some odd Negro females from wherever they brought them from, which wasn't Africa, because Angola was not the name of a country at that point. So the records that said Angola, it had to be adjusted by the state of Virginia because they were not from Angola. That land was not called Angola at that time. It was Senegambia. So why would in real time they mistake Anglo, or sorry, I gave the cat the gift away. The Angola, how could they confuse that with Senegambia? This is not a minor error, brother, and it's not an accidental error.
You know, in light of what me and you know, I would just like to at this point bring into your memory the USS, the US.S Western World.
Okay.
So this man goes to the Naval Department to get a ship that is later decommissioned after collecting the last bit of the finances from these people who just got ran and all of that.
Decommissioned again. You can't purchase for commercial use a former anything, any type of vessel, plane, jet, boat, steamship that hasn't been decommissioned from military use because it may have been used in battle or it may be needed for battle. So you bought something that was decommissioned. It was still faulty. It was sitting in the shipyard. You go to take them on the USS Black Star. It doesn't work. But then they find you guilty.
Black Star.
Then they find you guilty of what? Violation of the Stamp Act. See, notice whenever they're working with them boys, they always get convicted of something, but they're never held. Bobby Seale, just look it up. I'm not going to go into all of it detail for detail. I need y'all to do some legwork. Bobby Seale, he was sentenced to 4 years for, I don't know, so many counts, 16 counts of contempt. Etheridge Cleaver was put on trial for murder, for shooting a guy with an AK or something like that, who was cheating with his woman. Invited them both over to Africa. I can't remember which nation. And I really don't care to because I really don't focus on too many details with the sellouts unless it's relevant to a current situation. But yeah, he came, did, turned himself in. Trial didn't last very long, and then he was right back out. I mean, this is what they do, right? And so, before those things even occurred, let's go back to we dealing with the Freedmen's Bank. We dealing with what happened in Negro Wall Street, why they want to change it to Black Wall Street, and then talk about African American wealth in the same article is wild work, bro. It was during this period after the Civil War and the rise of Jim Crow in the late 19th century and early 20th century that Black Wall Street first emerged as Black Americans in segregated areas created their own businesses to support their communities. Established in 1871, the Jackson Ward District of Richmond became known as the Harlem of the South. The Southern Aid and Insurance Company, also known as the Southern Aid Life Insurance Company, founded there in 1893, was considered the first Black owned and operated life insurance company. At the
It's called the SSE.
At the center of the success of these institutions in Richmond were entrepreneurs like Reverend William Washington Brown, who went from escaping enslavement during the Civil War to starting a mutual aid society called the True Reformers. John Mitchell Jr., the 20 something editor of the Richmond Planet newspaper, which sought to expose lynchings, and Maggie Lena Walker, the first Black woman to be a bank president. In addition to running a newspaper, a department store, and a life insurance company, she ran the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank from 1903 to 1934. Come on, bro. Like, it was.
So we just witnessed forced migration. We just witnessed, not witnessed. These statements were just conveyed. Financial stealing, thievery, forced migration that ended in deaths, syphilis experiments that ended in deaths and targeted the Negro. And then I just would like to say for your own ears, the name of the ship for Marcus Garvey was the SS Yarmouth.
Yarmouth, okay. What happened to the Black Star Line? That wasn't that. Was that the name of all the ships that were supposed to be?
That was the name of the Black Star. That's what he renamed the
SS Yarmouth.
Yarmouth.
He renamed it the Black Star Line.
The Black Star Line.
So y'all that understand, Most Def and Talib Kweli are Black Star. That's where they got the motivation for the name. But it's just really interesting to me because, I know Most Def, who now goes by Yassine Bey, he deals with a lot of the Moorish history, but, that brother looks like he's a Lenape or Tuscarora. Like he looks like he's indigenous as well. I'm not going to say what his lineage is because it's not for me to say, but shout out to that brother, dope lyricist. Same thing with Talib, dope lyricist. He worked recently with a relative of my children, so peace to him. Peace to Jay.Drewz, like awesome music. Awesome music, awesome project. But yeah, man, they were named after that legendary Black Star Line, and not everybody really knows like the ins and outs of Marcus Garvey's story. When we came up, we didn't have that real time update of the information. Unless you did some real in depth research, you wouldn't have came across some details about his life and the likelihood of him working with the U.S. government to basically to round up militants, to round up militant types in order to remove them from U.S. soil. So when it didn't really happen, now they got all the names and the contact and the location info, and he goes and sets sail to England and gets married and never sees Africa's shores. You there, brother? I can't see you on camera if you are.
Oh, I'm here.
I just see I see Bassett. But yeah, I wanted to share this because this is this personal connection for me and my family. But it's talking about. I'm gonna scroll up a little bit. Articles of a treaty made and concluded between John A. Bryan, Commissioner on the part of the United States, and William Walker. John Barnett is my fifth great uncle, and Peacock, chiefs and principal men of the Wyandot tribe of Indians in Ohio, acting for and on behalf of the said tribe. The Wyandot tribe of Indians in Ohio cede to the United States a strip of the land, 5 miles in extent, on the east end of their reservation in Crawford County in said state. Also, one section of land lying in Cranberry Swamp on Broken Sword Creek, being the 1 mile square specified and set forth in the treaty made with the said tribe on the 29th day of September in the year of our Lord, 1817. Also, 160 acres of land, which is to be received in the place, instead of equal quantities set apart in a supplemental treaty made with the said Indians on the 17th day of September in the following year, all situate and being in the said county of Crawford. Now, remember what the AI said to us, brother? Now, the audience isn't going to necessarily hear this unless you pull her back up again. But you remember what the interesting response she had to my
That
line
they
of
were,
questions,
yes,
and
that they exchanged land, and that they were supposed to receive direct payment from the government annually.
that part, and the fact that she said I must be referring to another treaty, but the treaties are linked. The Treaty of Greenville is linked directly to the Treaty of Washington, which is what this falls under, but it was for the Ohio Territory. And the Treaty of Greenville covered the Ohio Territory as well as part of Kentucky, Tennessee, uh, and Michigan, as well as the lower part of Ontario, Canada. So they're playing games with these locations because they know that they can play with the translation of what these places are now. Like I'm sure Crawford County is not the same Crawford County that includes what now is Bucyrus and Galion, Ohio, which is near, my previous residence. Okay. Richland County is mentioned in the other treaty of Greenville. So these lands, even though they're not Indian names, they're named after people who were given some type of trusteeship in the decisions of what will be done with the land after it was ceded by my some of my ancestors and probably some of yours as well, right? So there was supposed to be a swap for the Kansas territory. Here's the interesting thing. My uncle's sister, which would, well, no, sorry, daughter, my uncle's daughter, which would be my cousin, because he was my fifth uncle. So it's just weird because she was still way older than me. Married a man named Matisse or Matthias Splitlog. Splitlog, one of the wealthiest quote unquote Indians in American history, owned the Kansas area, not the entire territory, which would include the states of Colorado and Arizona, etc. No, Kansas, where we call Kansas City, he owned the land that became the state of Kansas and he sold it to the railroad. So you know he made big bucks in that deal. But he ended up dying as one of the chief of the Seneca out in Kansas, and then was later buried with his original people, which were Shawnee, because the Shawnee and the Wyandot ran together, especially here in Ohio. I don't say that to brag about pedigree. I'm just saying to understand just how closely related all of that is and just how not so long ago that was. Why do we get treated this way? What is it about us? What is it about this US?
brother.
You can't even keep up your end of the bargain with an even trade. You swap this amount of land for that amount of land out there. And it wasn't no war. This is not the result of a war, you guys. Do your research. It's not the result of a war that you would think fought with guns and tanks and drones or missiles. Okay. This warfare was done by immigration. They overcrowded my people with the influx of immigrants who did not live the same way of life. So finally, they said, fine, okay, you want it that bad that this is what you're going to do. All right, cool. We can't really throw punches when you're not throwing punches. This isn't really fair. It's brilliant, but it's not fair. So, how about this? Since you want us all to move out west so bad and leave this prime land to you, we got to have an even for even exchange. And they couldn't even do that. When you asked AI, like you said, about the payments, oh, because that's the part, yeah, the payments. Let's see here. The 5 mile track, also the additional quantities there herein set forth, are each to be surveyed as other public lands are surveyed by the surveyor general and to be sold at such time and place, allowing 60 days notice of the sale, as the president may direct. A register and receiver shall be appointed by the president and senate in accordance with the wishes of the delegation of chiefs, whose duties shall be similar to those of other registers and receivers. They shall receive such compensation for services rendered not exceeding $5 per day for every day necessarily employed in the discharge of their duties, as the president may determine. You see this? The delegation of chiefs
Mm-hmm.
paid five
Bro,
dollars per
I'm
day.
sitting over here trying to hold my tongue, but this is in line with what you're saying right now, what you just said. He named that ship. He took it from the SS Yod Moth and he named it the SS Frederick Douglass, brother, who was a known Boule member. That we know for a fact he was a Boule member.
Mm-hmm.
So he changed the name of the SS Yod Moth to the SS Frederick Douglass.
Okay. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Then collected all of them people money.
Yeah.
And this was within 10 years of them hitting them with the bank. They hit them with the bank, as you're talking about, the Freedman Bank. They hit them, they misinvested their money, they lost all that money. Then they desperate and don't want nothing to do with the US at this point because of what they've done to their finances. So this man gets up, tells them that he gonna exit them out and giving them away, just throw him the last of this money. He named it the USS Yod Moth is what it is when he get it. Then he changed it to the USS Frederick Douglass, and then it's decommissioned. That is sickening.
Bro. All of this is in the same time, similar time frame.
Yeah, it's all within this is a 15, 20. We
18
ain't left 15 years from each other.
1834 or 1830, you have the Indian Removal Act passed. By 1836, you have the final bastion of Indian territory being signed or ceded over in exchange for land out west, known as the Kansas Territory, which was already Indian land to begin with, just west of the Mississippi. Here's the thing: 30 years later, the end of the Civil War and the beginning of the Freedmen's Bank, that only was open, what, 7 or 8 years? This is all within the same time frame.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So who was really fighting the Civil War? All right. So yeah. I'm gonna just finish off with this treaty. Sorry to y'all. I'm not trying to like hog it with like because of the family connection, but I just want y'all to understand how real this is and how recent. By the 21st article of the treaty concluded at the foot of the rapids of the Miami of Lake Erie, the Miami River in Ohio of Lake Erie, dated the 29th day of September in the year 1817, and the schedule thereunto attached, there was granted to Downquat or king or half king Rontandi or Warpole uh, Tyrantoia or between the logs Danwautout, Danwautout or John Hicks. See, they all had aliases that the English called them. Montague or Thomas, Tyandatasa. Please forgive me, y'all. I didn't learn the language yet. Tyandatase, Tause, Tyandatase, or George Punch, which is a relative of mine. I have a sworn affidavit where he's actually signing that John Barnett was the chief and that Joseph Barnett was his brother, which was my other uncle, and then Amanda Barnett, who was the daughter of Ununqua, was actually my uh, great grandmother, fifth great grandmother. So, um, within the Wyandotte Reservation, all aforesaid chiefs, their heirs or legal representatives are entitled to. The aforesaid chiefs, their heirs or legal representatives, are entitled to and allowed one section of land each in the above designated tract of 5 miles to be selected by them previous to sale, and the same shall be sold as the other lands are sold, and they allowed to receive the respective sums arising from said sale, excuse me. If during the progress of the sale the Indians are not satisfied with the prices at which the land sell, the register and receivers shall, on written application of the chiefs, close the sale and report the proceedings to the War Department. And the president may appoint such other time for the sale as he may deem proper. President shall give such directions as he may judge necessary for the execution of this treaty through the proper departments of the government. Signed this 23rd day of April in the year of our Lord, 1836. These are the signers: John A. Bryan, commander on the part of the United States; William Walker, John Barnett, his ex mark; Peacock, his ex mark.
Doesn't X mean that they were signing under duress?
Okay, well, it means, I mean, you're talking about men who spoke and wrote English. That's proven through the other historical records. I mean, and then even after his assassination, it talks about how his father, Onunqua, one of my great grandfathers, was converted to Christianity and became some kind of minister. So these people were not illiterate; they weren't savages, and they were one of the most highly noted and respected tribes in U.S. encounters with indigenous people because with the fact that they were able to hold the council fire, they communicated with a lot of the tribes. I would say a very large some of the tribes came to them for counsel, as well as the Europeans when there was conflict. So yeah, you could say possibly under duress. I would say likely under duress. Definitely not a true signature, but X marks the spot. So you gotta write a letter for your ex brother. You gotta. Sorry. we got to keep it moving. Sorry, y'all. It kind of it's this heavy content, but hey, listen, like, share, and subscribe. Join our locals, Deeper Dives Unlimited Dialogue, Deeper Dives Dialogue Unlimited on Rumble, rumble.com/ Deeper Dives Dialogue, UNL. So join it, man. Join it. Share,
And
comment.
and then you said you had mentioned drone strikes. I just wanted to say number 11 on our list today is the drone strike and extrajudicial killings of 2002, where the U.S. targeted citizens that it deemed as a terrorist threat without due process. 2002. Because you said, you had mentioned this wasn't a drone attack, this wasn't war, this wasn't any of that. This was a treaty signed. I just wanted to say the drone attack happened in 2002 on citizens of the U.S. who did not receive due process and were deemed a terrorist threat.
You mind reading this for me?
The main intention of COINTELPRO was to prevent the rise of a messiah who could unify and electrify the militant Black national movement. This insight is important. It reveals how the outside of Black life, FBI, would invoke biblical language to define the possibility of revolution.
Did you just recognize what you just read?
Yeah.
The insight is important as it reveals how those outside of Black life would invoke biblical language to define the possibility of revolution.
Like, never mind.
The Black Panthers.
Hmm.
Yahshua bin Pandara, also
Yeah.
known as Joshua bin Pandira, also known as Joshua the Black Panther or son of the Panther. Where are Panthers indigenous to? Bingo. Not Africa. The jaguar and the panther are our cats. So why did y'all believe in Wakanda being somewhere other than U.S. soil? Because they told you to in Hollywood. So just so you all understand, this is not just a gimmick show. It is basically a listing of just some of the things you might want to consider when you make your next decision to vote or not, if you get that opportunity again, ever. Uh, where you want to reside or lay your head or raise your family, where you work, where you pay your taxes.
Whether you pay your taxes voluntarily or you
Well,
deny.
well, I mean, we don't want to, we don't want to propagate or encourage, tax
No, I'm just saying
protesters.
you have a choice in case you didn't know.
I mean, I know nothing
You know
about
nothing. You know
a
nothing.
choice of whether or not you can opt out of that. But however, there are former agents that say that is the case. Um, some of them went to jail for short periods of time and then got out. I don't know if they're still not paying their taxes or not. I don't know. So it'd be great to catch up with one of them and do a little off-camera interview. If
Wait, so if taxes are voluntary and people went to prison for not paying taxes, is this an attack?
I mean, like I said, it's hypocritical at best, or at worst rather, when you dump tea in the Boston, in what was it, Chesapeake Bay? You started a massacre. You sparked a massacre called the Boston Massacre. Peter Salem and what was the other guy's name? Peter Salem and you know, they were Pequot Indians. They were actually Indians, but they look like Negroes because we know they were supposed to know what Negroes looked like back then because that's when they made up the term. But Peter Salem and come on, what's the other one's name? We're gonna I'm gonna Google it. I can't. We've heard the name so many times. Boston Massacre. Yeah, Boston Tea Party. You know, come on, bro. You're not saying anything. Come on. You know what I'm saying?
I
What's the
can't
other what's
I
the other
can't
guy's
place it at this
name?
moment. I can't place it at this moment. I'm sitting back here, my mind is slightly blown at the conversation we're having right now because literally they chased us. This is looking like they literally chased us and then performed experiment. They chased us out of our land into other locations. We died in the mist. Then they chased us to where we went to, performed experimentations on us. And then when we rose in the locations that we went to, they attacked us.
Crispus Attucks. I mean, they weren't finished, brother. Obviously, I mean, what we haven't come to understand is that, like, even voluntarily trading lands and giving up your home, nice scenery by the lake or the river, giving them the most prime real estate for growing crops and raising domesticated animals as well as livestock.
These fools
It's
don't even use it to grow. They
no,
use
bro.
it to put big
No, bro.
houses.
You don't understand it. I mean, it's just give them some time to make better plans of how to just wipe us all out at once, where they can only keep a few of us, for breeding purposes, whether it be for perpetual servitude or to just have a pet family member that you feel is like part something that's not human,
A cute,
which
a cute little Kanye in a Kardashian family. Hey, little cute little Kanye,
I
give me
mean,
some
hey,
babies.
hey, they didn't defeat the Seminole. There was 300 unconquered. Now they're 4,000, 5,000 strong. They must not be eating what the rest of us are eating. I'm just saying, and drinking. Um, I mean, there's gators and pythons now in that swamp. I mean, and they still thrive. It's you know what I mean. It takes some measures of giving sacrificing things, right? Sometimes in order to rebuild, but we might get to that point, and COINTELPRO was definitely the murder and assassination of Fred Hampton Jr., the incarceration of George and Jonathan Jackson.
Yeah,
Um,
yes, 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 and yes, yes, and yes. And just COINTELPRO lasted from 1956 to 1971.
it's still going on.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And, I mean, remember the aim was basically they're trying to round up black militants. So you got to understand the depth in what we're saying is not just in the description of your appearance. It is you becoming the byproduct that they created of a black person. Hear what I'm saying to you. Gathering in groups together under that identity and then promoting militancy and action against the United States corporation. You
Now,
you
now,
you
now, for those who would say it was only black people who suffered this
no,
type of
no,
attack for standing up for themselves, that is not true.
no,
That is not true.
no, but all of those other people, legally speaking, may as well have been black people. And I'm not talking about lips, I'm not talking about hair grade, I'm not talking about 9 ether, 6 to 9 ether. I'm not talking none of that. I'm just keeping it 100% simple. The freedom riders, they weren't all so-called black people, right? They weren't all so-called Niji. There were some Jewish people that gave their lives. There were some Caucasian and Anglo-Saxon people that gave their lives for a cause
The
of freedom for all people. But here's what's sad is the color of law would label them all as associated with the term black. Even white people, don't be fooled. It's a temporary status. You see how quickly one party and the other cover one another in flooding the country with outsiders. I'm gonna just say it nicely because I don't want to. I'm not aiming this at anybody that's not a corporation. But some people were brought.
Ruby Ridge 2002.
Let's tell us about it.
Oh no, I just want that
Oh,
there for them. I just want that there for them because I that's one of them. We might get cut off the thing
oh,
again.
the Boston Massacre. By the way, it was Peter Salem and Crispus Attucks, the first two to lose their lives, and they were Pequot, uh, a Pequot Indian in indigenous First Nations people descent. Yep. And just look up what army they were fighting with and what coat they had on, and then understand who was supplying rations and supplies for military use on American soil at that time before it became the US, as far as their corporate establishment. So you understand how long this corporation's been at war with its people and how many of its people have been co opted to serve the cause of the corporation. So when we're telling you, about the Council of Chiefs, and we're not talking about a specific tribe, and we're talking about gatekeepers and protectors of, what's been known as global white supremacy, which is just a concept, not a truth or a reality. It's always been, those who are of at some point an indigenous descent and behind the scenes that control and make the shot calls for the establishment that has a pale colored complexion sometimes. And that's no disrespect or shade to anybody who may or may not feel they fit that description. You know, it's just interesting the actions that have been taken against the people, especially the people that have spoken up for what's true.
By foreigners, whether they're North African Moors or they're Europeans after European was overthrown. Either
Yes.
or. So if you want to translate that to here, whether they're Boule or high level Mason, you know what I mean? If you want to translate that into some now terminology so you can get a better understanding. I am disgusted at the USS Western World's behavior that I just discovered enacted through Marcus Garvey. That right there is the definition of kicking a brother or sister while they down. That's the definition of it. He they down on their side, grabbing their side, and they look up and they see him. Oh, now we got some help. One of our own coming to assist us. And he kicked him in the other rib.
It's like we can't even still have our heroes. Like, okay, so some people are like, well, if he was this and that, why'd they arrest him? Well, what time did he do? Right? And where did he end up? He never made it to the shores of Africa, even though he was supposed to have all the pull and black nationalism and pan, meaning world African, unity and all of that. But you go and marry and live in London? the rest of your days, is that not where you were commissioned from? Is that
Come
not
on,
maybe what lodge you were belonging to?
come
Being that
on.
your security was Hebrew Israelites, which is a third degree within some of the lodges. Look it up. Please look it up. We want to call ourselves everything but what we are. And it's not black or African American. I'm sorry. And it's not just about us either, because all these other peoples often were sold into bad contracts for human trafficking, under the auspices of this or that, so they could build the corporation up. So I'm so sorry for you and your bad luck and experience as well. Um, but I can't say that we're all in the same boat. Sorry, back to my regular accent. Yeah, can't say we're all in the same boat. Sorry, y'all. It's not that we feel better or that we're greater or more important. It's just that at one point in time, we were given the illusion that what we were addressing was what they say, Ungawa, black power. When? Right now, right? All power to the people. But what happened was a series of, like you said, bombings and drone attacks and tax arrests and RICO charges and this and that. I
You
mean,
know, Obama
Jack Johnson to
bombing Libya.
From Jack Johnson to Muhammad Ali to the bombing of, yeah, but see, no offense, because like indigenous people in Africa, the Libyan people for sure, um, but we're talking about a man whose mother was from Kansas by way of, I don't know what other nationality, but father was a diplomat from Kenya, allegedly, right? But somehow he's an American president who was born on U.S. soil. Let me be careful. That also had a law degree or a law background that basically removed the term Negro, which is why when we go to look up Negro Wall Street, it says Black Wall Street. Things like that, to where AI becomes confused when you ask them, "Is there a difference?" And he says it's interchangeable. So
I just got to say that because I know that we're approaching the end of the show, know that we have got nowhere in recent history, but there is a recent history list that we just didn't get to today. The most recent point, just for sake of you knowing that this didn't stop. We're not talking about some past non-continued old stuff that's not occurring. Again, I got on this list Ruby Ridge incident of 1992, the Oklahoma city bombing of 1995, the Patriot Act and surveillance of 2001, and
hold
the
on, but that was a result of what? 9/11.
true, true, right.
So go ahead.
Which that's considered a something job. You know what I mean? Asymmetrical bombing type activity. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean, there was several indicators that there was prior knowledge.
yes, indeed. And so you have all of these in recent history, and then even if somebody outside of there's been two instances that I know of where an African person bit and said that these are my people who came over here and I want to help them. One of the gentlemen gave $400 million to be dispersed amongst us that we never saw. And then you have another individual whose name was Gaddafi. This individual was intending to redistribute the world's wealth in a fair way instead of the very, very unfair way that is currently distributed. That man under Obama's presidency lost his life. But the crazy part about it is, and I've told this story many times, but I want to say it again while we're talking about activities that were detrimental to our growth and development. This man spoke to Farrakhan, got chummy with him, buddy with him. Gaddafi offered him $1 billion. The man who don't want nothing to do with the devil, say he hate the devil, say we need to build a nation of our own inside of a nation. This is his. You build a nation of your own, independent, a nation inside of a nation. Instead of this man going to build a nation, he went to the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
No,
and said,
it was the Treasury.
Oh, excuse me. He went to the Treasury and said to the Treasury, this man is trying to send me $1 billion. Can I accept it or can I not accept it? Then went back and told Gaddafi, hey, they told me I couldn't take that money, brother. And then soon after, our dear brother that man lost his life.
And I don't mean to downplay that. But see, in the grand scheme of things, what does that got to do with America? I know there's an answer. That's why I'm asking you the question. What's that got to do with America? Because ultimately, if you're going to cede that money to one group of Americans that consider themselves a nation with a religious associated title, the nation of said religion. I'm not even trying to pick on nobody in particular, but it's really obvious to me that if you're the nation of Christendom and you're the black nation of Christendom, but you drop black because you realize that's a pejorative and negative pejorative and a what's the word, repulsive legal context and meaning behind it. So then now you're just known as that nation of Christendom or whatever. And then you got a symbol of a whole nother nation, but it's upside down on your banner. That's named after a bird that it comes from a language from your land, meaning tough bird. I think y'all are clear on that. It's an Algonquin word for tough bird, but there's a whole country named that across the water. But we're supposed to believe that everything in the Bible, the Quran, and everything else happened over there.
He talking about the turkey that they slice up.
I'm just saying it's almost. I'm just saying it's almost Thanksgiving, and I'm just saying that some people call it Turkey Day, and I'm just saying that's an Algonquin word meaning tough bird. But why, if you were a religious nation, would you have an emblem of a country that's associated with the same devil that you said is your enemy? And you would take money from one of them in Chicago to get your business, your nation started and keep it going.
But you send your students to learn from the devil.
But, I mean, there's protocol. So if someone was trying to send you $1 billion, brother, from a foreign nation, the best person to ask would be the Treasury Department, because they could tell you all the laws on taxes and receiving a gift of that sum, that large or sum. When you receive that monetary value, would it be in weights and measures, or would it be in fiat? And then who would house that and protect that fiat for you? Would you have your own security? So I mean, let's be fair, but at the same time, I feel you. So I mean, would there be like an offshore setup? Would there be a Swiss connection involved with this transfer of wealth?
He could have done it any of those ways.
Could he? I don't know. See, that's what I'm saying. I ain't never been in that lane of that magnitude. But I'm just saying it stands to reason there'd been another way.
Mhm.
I mean, Jeffrey Epstein became a billionaire seemingly overnight. I mean,
Oh,
they said he
oh,
had no impressive financial understanding of the marketplaces, and it was befuddling to many who encountered him that he was who they were being told he was. So I'm just saying, I don't know. It's just things that make you go, hmm.
mm,
Shout out to
mm.
Arsenio Hall, who got canceled for having. Anyhow, it's just interesting that what could have been done with that money. And then it's interesting knowing the history and the facts of said religion, that would be the chosen person to designate that transfer of wealth. And then the city association. It seems like there was another group that started out as a street organization
Mm.
whose leaders' initials were JF, and then they became Moors under the title El Rukins. And then there was allegedly a plot to, I don't know if it was to retaliate for other bombings that indigenous people suffered and American people suffered at the hands of the U.S.S. But nonetheless, they said that there was a plan they uncovered, a pipeline underneath the city being scheduled for detonation, and at some point didn't happen, but allegedly the capability was there, the physical apparatuses were there, and access was there. Yeah, but it didn't get carried out. But people still got arrested, still got locked up, behind it. Not saying they shouldn't. Just saying I don't. How do we view these things in actuality? How do we really view them? Um, but yeah, how would that money make it to that city though? Um, I mean, you're literally calling yourself a nation that's supposedly within a nation
Come on, man.
that we
So,
know is
so,
really a
so,
corporation. So was
so
your nation a corporation also?
why you going to why you going to them if you want to be a sovereign nation? I'm a logical thinker. You want to be a sovereign nation, so why are you going to the nation that you inside of?
I mean, I just don't understand hustling backwards. I mean, why not deal with the treaties first? Because most of them were never fully enforced and never fully executed,
Facts.
and then mostly violated, even through these actions, some of which we've discussed.
So then they just
Oh,
need.
oh, that's why. Oh, because we don't know if we're Negro, Black, African American, Native American, or American Indian. We don't know. I mean, and then out of two out of those categories, the people can call us culture vultures, or that say that we're culturally appropriating their culture to our own selves, even though they heavily borrow, steal from us to comprise their culture, whether it be through music or dress or clothing
Are
or
you talking about them Siberians?
Oh, not just them.
No.
People like Akon that'll make ignorant statements because they got a bunch of money all of a sudden, and forget that they studied our culture for what 20 some years, but then try to act like there is none, even though you've co-opted it and taken it back home. Just stuff like that. I'm just saying, no, no, no hate, just giving a reality check. You know, just giving a reality check. So I mean, the Siberians were given the right to squad, so I don't have any problem with them until they start trying to act like they don't know or remember that it's us that was already here.
When they start playing in your face.
Something like that. I mean, shit, games are to be played, and sometimes people get bored.
Hey, can I get some of that casino money?
But if you
You can
play,
give me some of that casino money.
but
I'll do
if
whatever
you,
you say, boss.
but if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, like your reservation being raided by ICE, and then the truth comes out the ugly way that you never were who you thought we thought you were, because you knew you weren't. It wasn't about you thought you were. Oops, my mistake. No, you knew. And then you tried to play in certain people's faces, and then you came upon someone that wasn't playing those games anymore and wasn't afraid of what people thought for saying you're not that. And you probably should go home
I know
before
Indians.
it gets bad.
Those don't look like Indians to
To
me.
me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians. That's what he said.
Oh.
He said real Indians look more like Michael Jordan than
Mm.
Billy Joe
What?
in the spaghetti westerns. Yeah. But because right after that, Don Imus, who he was talking to when that was said, y'all can look at the transcripts, he made a comment, nappy headed hose or something about the Rutgers women's basketball team, which was ill advised, ignorant, and inexcusable. He was canceled during that time period because of that comment. So it kind of buried the Trump statement until, it became relevant again when he confronted Elizabeth Warren, who found out she was allegedly 1% Cherokee, which is not a thing. I'm sorry. It's not a thing because you're taking a DNA test that's only 0.003% accurate. Might as well say for entertainment purposes only. It could tell you who your current relatives are. So she's maybe related by 1% to a Cherokee or a group of Cherokee, but she's not descended from them. That's not what that means. I'm sorry, guys. You keep on paying all this money to spit in the cup. You might as well just take a DNA test to find out if you really are
You might as
father.
well invest in Marcus Garvey's ship.
Yeah, or there's a beachfront property I want to sell you in Toledo, Ohio. Yeah, yeah, you definitely are, 3% Ashanti. Yeah, even.
And I want to say the ancestors from Tuskegee just
Mhm.
came through, and I just want to honor them. I just want to say, I'm aware of the things that happened to you. I'm sorry for the things that happened to you, and by the power that you have in that realm, may you rise in power and may justice be served for the things that you went through. Ashe.
I say, oh, but yeah, the thing is, guys, there could be a case made. Um, the COINTELPRO or counterintelligence program, I believe, is never ended. Um, Events like the Palmer raids between 1919 and 1920, infiltration of the socialist and communist parties into so-called so-called Black American culture. Um, these things have always been done to completely subvert any messianic rise amongst our people that would be genuine and quote unquote creator or God sent. And they said they would use biblical language, which we must not take that lightly, and also not just confine that statement to mean the literal Bible like statements. They're talking about religious speech. So any movement that could be considered religious in nature, they would speak in this programming, redundant, repetitive. Like, for example, someone that would come to you and say, I repeat, I will not be debating Dan Calloway. I will not be debating Dane Calloway. Again, I said I will not be debating. The school will go up by November. I
Oh,
say
come on,
again, the
Marcus.
school will go up by November. Did y'all hear me? I said the first two times that 3-time affirmation, like that spell work. Yeah, come on, man. These are religious, and I don't mean that in a true sense of religion, like just what you do every day, but the classical concept of meeting in a place
It's harder to
repetitively.
hold a person accountable in a robe with a cross on it and a fish hat than it is to hold uh, a dude in a do-rag with a jumpsuit on accountable for the wrong that he's doing. Even if the one in the robe with the fish hat is responsible for genocide, and the one in the hoodie and the skull cap or whatever is not responsible for nothing but shoplifting, parishes, orphanages, the military order of Jesus Christ. Then our governing body, they COINTELPRO, Martin Luther King, um, um, attack on us in general. You said it was continuing to go on. This is the last thing I'm gonna say, and then I'm gonna leave it the subject alone because I know we're nearing the end of the show. The school to prison pipeline, and then a prison just sued the state for not providing them enough
Oh, not a
prison.
prison, a group of prisons.
How bold, or how either bold or connected to them do you have to have the audacity to sue them? Because that sounds like a contract. That
It
sounds like
is.
a contract.
At one point in time in the state that I worked in corrections, the going rate was $50,000 a year per head.
So they getting private owned Federal Reserve notes based on their ability to continue to house the people that are sent to them.
Let's just put it this way. How's this for inequity? Your your normal staff member that's recruited to do security for these residents in your facility start off making at one point in time, I don't know what it really is now for yes I do, sorry, okay, but at one point you were paying about 35,000 a year for a person just starting in corrections, and you're making 50 per head. And in a lot of the facilities at one time, there were over 2,000 heads at any given time. And they swap them out. They call it being rode out. They'd ride you out. You had these administrative processes that are not actual court, administrative hearing officers that are not trained in the constitution of that particular territory, state, or corporation, but a set of policies that could retry someone that's already been convicted, and then it could tack on time and also require their removal from that institution to another institution within the same state.
What's the
So
average pay rate of a U.S. citizen? What's the average pay rate? Not the above average, the middle class, or the high. What's it? Is it 50,000? Does it even make
No,
it to that number? No, it
no,
doesn't even. It doesn't even make it
no,
to
it
50,000.
doesn't. And that's crazy because that's what I'm saying. They're making more money off of locking people up than providing people with jobs.
And then they sued the state for not. How do you provide? Help me understand, because maybe I'm
These are the private prisons that were
these are the
doing
private prisons. So maybe I'm
it.
ignorant. Maybe I'm ignorant. So please help me with my ignorance, okay? How would a state supply you with a prisoner? How does that occur?
I believe the public ones would have to become overcrowded to even justify the consideration for transferring an inmate from that public institution, that state owned institution, to a privatized corporate institution. They all go through the same training, they go to the same academy, they start out at the same pay rate. I'm talking about staff.
Mm.
But
Do,
when
do
it
do the police get um benefits when they bring in more people? Like if a police officer does more tickets, let's say, or brings more people in to sign them up for jail. I forget the intake. Do they get rewards and benefits for that?
incentivized, sure.
Yes. Oh,
I
okay.
mean, it's some in some instances it's a faster track towards promotion consideration. Um, you know, those type of things do exist. But
Hmm.
with the prisons suing the states, because the states have the control over where those inmates are housed, but the private corporations usually get the overflow. You get what I'm saying? So if I can't fit you in Leavenworth State Penitentiary, then I have to send you to the Kentucky General Pride Rehabilitation Center
That's on some farm in the middle of nowhere.
or near one.
Hmm.
Definitely by some railroad tracks, usually, you know, something like that. But yeah, S-
But
so
yeah, we'll talk. We'll talk about that more in the next show, because didn't
yeah,
Mississippi
yeah.
find like 97 unmarked bodies? Okay, I quit. I'm done. I'm
I
done.
mean, there are burial grounds near all of them,
Hmm.
and there are unmarked grave markers, and I mean unmarked graves, and unconventional grave markers and things like that for people that didn't have the money to you know have a proper burial. So, but yeah, that's another show. We appreciate y'all showing up today. Those of you that did popped in and out, like, share, and subscribe. Join our locals, rumble.com/deeper dives UNL. Give us feedback, support us. Hey, if you happen to want to, donate, get in contact with us. But as always, man, we appreciate you. Shout out to the audience, shout out to the family. Um, until next time, we'll see you again.